So today might be the most important day in the fight against radical Islam since September 11th. And tragic news, as there were 3 separate, highly likely Islamic terrorist attacks in France today. A woman was beheaded in a knife crime. I believe in Nice, it's another Basilica. Another man was in a police office threatened with a gun, and a security guard outside the Saudi consulate in France, or embassy, was stabbed. And this is all, of course, in the response to France pushing back against radical Islamic terrorism. So the whole story, starts years ago with the original Charlie Hebdo cartoons and the drawing of the Prophet Muhammad, which I chose to make the thumbnail for this video, because Spartacus. Now, after that cartoon was shown, terrorists with Kalashnikovs burst into the Charlie Hebdo offices, and for the crime of drawing cartoons, murdered dozens of people. People like the supreme leader of Iran, the Ayatollah Khomeini, justifies this. He says, you know what, this is pretty much drawing the Prophet Muhammad is comparable to Holocaust denial. Because the Holocaust and drawing a cartoon are equivalent in his mind. Now, good on Emmanuel Macron for rightfully calling out the motives of these attacks, radical Islamic terrorism. Because there's a copycat Charlie Hebdo attack, and then a heroic teacher, Samuel Paty, decided to teach the controversy in his class. Parents, teachers, mosques, all whipped up genocidal violence, murderous violence, Islamically inspired murderous violence against his teacher, and he was decapitated. Some people, French Muslims too, said, hey, this is the fight against Islamism. And we have this in Canada, and it's currently the fight I'm going through in court. And I have documentation to prove that people of the Muslim Brotherhood persuasion think that the other Muslims are their biggest problem, because the majority of Muslims, in Canada at least, don't support radical Islam. Now, we have to talk about what we mean with radical Islam. And we have to talk about this because it is not a small problem. It is a really, really big problem. And it's not because it's the majority of Muslims who do it. No, it's because it's a sizable minority, and we have to talk about that. So, we could talk about the fact that it is a minority of Muslims who have Islamist beliefs or jihadist beliefs. It is a significant amount that cumulatively creates a problem. So if you just say, hey, it's just the 1% of the 1% who are terrorists. Well, if you do the math there, and there's 1.5 to 1.8 billion Muslims in the world, that's 150 to 180,000 radical terrorists. That's pretty much the standing power of the entire Roman legion at its height. And give them all Kalashnikovs and explosive vests, and you see what we're dealing with. But it's not just the jihadists, the ones decapitating, right? We have to talk about the fact that the ideals of the man who decapitated a French teacher are supported by a wider community. We have to talk about the fact that the parents of people in that classroom were not, embodying French values, and they said, no, he showed a picture of the Prophet Muhammad, we have to kill him. And then mosques, religious institutions, agreed, yeah, the punishment here is death. And I pointed out in my show, it says in the Quran, and Muhammad did in his life order his followers to murder people who made fun of him. There is murder for apostasy in the Quran. We have to deal with these things. Now, the majority of Muslims don't abide by these beliefs. The majority of Muslims, you give the benefit of the doubt, and they say the 3 terrorist attacks in Nice today, no, that doesn't represent me. And that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about, though, is there is a wider population of Muslims. We don't know the exact number, right? The Islamists, the Muslim Brotherhood, right? The ones who want the caliphate by the pen, not the sword, who support this type of ideology, who want blasphemy laws, right? Pakistan and Turkey, 2 countries, are currently whipping up mobs against France for saying that the decapitation of a French teacher for showing a picture of the Prophet Muhammad had something to do with Islam. And finally, Islamic trended on Twitter because Donald Trump finally said it. And then you see the Trump derangement syndrome people freaking out. Oh, so he's able to say it's Islamic terrorism here, blah, 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 but he doesn't call it white supremacy. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Read one of the, 8,000 times. He did it 4,000 times at the last debate, okay? So where does this leave us? This leaves us in a very, very interesting position because France will be forced to fight, and radical Islam is fighting back. Okay, so the way Islamists work is you back down, you capitulate to them. If France stops here and they go, and Macron takes his foot off the gas, they learn, okay, the next time someone criticizes the Prophet Muhammad, you kill until the French capitulate. And it sucks. And there's going to be a lot of cowards in France and a lot of leftists who are going to say, no, it's not worth it. Just capitulate our freedoms. You know, there's going to be a lot of Islamists there just threatening to kill people. So what do you have to do? You got to kind of treat this as a war. You got to go after radicalism. I mean, they're good going after the Muslim Brotherhood, but you got to start arresting religious leaders calling for violence. You got to start arresting them. All the leaders in the mosque who say, well, this guy deserved to die, boots come in, take him away, deport him, shut the mosque down, shut every radical mosque down you can, and go quickly and go hard. This is the language they speak. You go hard, you start shutting these people down, you start, you know, anyone calling for violence, you stop it before it gets any worse, the problem will go away. You capitulate, you try and reason with people who cannot be reasoned with, the same people who have not been reasoned with the last 1,400 years, you'll get the same results of the last 1,400 years. So, this is where France is. And Canada could be in this, the reason why I'm talking about this now is because Canada could very, very, very easily be in this position. Now, not under Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau, if I get killed for making this video, Justin Trudeau will definitely, you know, if the guy dies in the attack, he'll show up to he'll go support the family of the guy who killed me. He won't, you know, cry around my mother or anything. Not a chance. But there's a chance that, you know, if Aaron O'Toole gets in power, right? Canada could very easily see a situation like this. Because Aaron O'Toole is the perfect middle-of-the-road guy, right? Oh, yes, radical Islam. We have a problem. We'll say something, but we're not really going to do anything about it. That's an Aaron O'Toole thing, right? Aaron O'Toole could very easily inspire this type of violence, right? All it takes is one teacher in Canada thinking, you know what, I think I should, you know, maybe I should teach this controversy and try and do some good. Then all it takes is one mosque. All it takes is one Islamic organization to just advocate for the death of this person. And the real problem is not that the majority of Muslims are silent, right? It's just a loud minority. The problem is they know that loud minority exists, and they're too afraid to do anything about it. Most of our major Islamic organizations in Canada are connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. Most of them. Like, there's Senate testimony showing this. I could show you the paperwork and the histories of 4 major organizations right now. Make it think about this. So that's kind of what I need to say today. I mean, I just really hope, and I want to, you know, send my best wishes out to the people of France. You know, stay strong. And it's going to be scary over the next couple weeks, but I would advise you to look at history and realize that if you capitulate to these people, your problems are going to get to be about much worse. I mean, the night is, you know, darkest before the dawn. I hope France can push through, because if France fails to combat radical Islam now, you're going to see very, very, very bad things coming.